Godzilla Minus One is written and directed by Takashi Yamazaki, who also worked on the visual effects on this film. Post-war Japan is at its lowest point when a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster baptized in the horrific power of the atomic bomb. Now, I pretty much enjoy most of Godzilla films. I really like the American Godzilla films from 2014 to next year, probably when the new Godzilla vs. Kong comes out, or Godzilla and Kong. I really enjoy Shin Godzilla. Some of the Toho sequels I found to be enjoyable in a guilty pleasure way, but none of them have been able to capture the spirit of that original film that still holds up to this day. I just reviewed it yesterday or last night. You should definitely check it out. So I was going into this film expecting a normal kind of Godzilla film where Godzilla runs around Japan and destroys buildings and kills people, and the Japanese people who we won't care about go in to try and stop him. Except the twist is, I do care about these characters. I found each character here to be very engaging, and I did not want any of them to die at the hands of Godzilla. Mainly our main protagonist, Koichi Shikishima, who is someone who is suffering from post-traumatic stress, and he is someone that you're easily able to understand where he's coming from, you're able to root for, and you want to see him succeed in achieving his goal and being able to defeat Godzilla. What he goes through in this film was something that I wished more monster films were able to do, and that is have spend time with the characters and naturally have them go through so much trauma that is directly involved with the monster. Because in the beginning of the film, without spoiling too much, there are going to be some mild spoilers in this review, Godzilla is directly responsible for an event in the beginning of the film that connects to our main character. And that struggle keeps building and building even when Godzilla isn't around, which isn't much of the time, but whenever Godzilla does show up, he is a force of nature to be reckoned with. He's not anti-hero Godzilla, he is not hero Godzilla. This is villain Godzilla at his most evil. And what he does in the film and how he's portrayed is something that you expect, though there are a few new things that the film does to portray Godzilla, mainly in the beginning of the film, that I found to be very interesting and engaging, and puts a new spin on the monsters that I found to be very compelling. It makes him feel more like an animal at times, but is still able to keep those monstrous and villainous attributes that make him as compelling as a villain as he is. And the level of destruction that's portrayed in this film is incredible. The fact that this film cost $15 million to make in US dollars, which I'm pretty sure is realistically around like maybe 90 to 100 million. I don't know. But the fact that the movie is able to look this good in such a low budget is just incredible. The scale and scope of everything, as well as the visual effects in general, just look fantastic. There wasn't a single VFX shot that took me out of the film. Everything looked fantastic. It looked realistic. Sure, there are some instances where the movements can look a tiny bit janky, but you gotta like really pay attention to that stuff in order to notice it. Other than that, the VFX for the most part are perfect. They blend into the environments very well. The scale and scope of the cinematography help Godzilla feel like a gigantic monster that towers over everyone. I love the way destruction in Godzilla is portrayed here. But then again, going back to the characters, they're what made this movie for me. Because these characters are trying to struggle with the aftermath of World War II, with the destruction of their city, and you really care about them. The movie spends enough time with them developing their personalities, who they are, their wants and needs and their goals, and how our main protagonist connects back to Godzilla in the beginning, and what that means for his character arc, I found to be very compelling, and it just made Koichi a very likable protagonist that you legitimately want to root for to get out of this terrible situation and become the hero that we want him to be. I really did love the way the character is portrayed here. There is a woman and a child that he cares for that help connect him back to his humanity, and they still felt like characters within themselves with their own wants and needs. They don't feel like devices for our characters to try and please or to just help him develop his character arc without them having any goals or wants. Each character has their own individual wants and needs. They felt like human beings. This group of sailors that go out with Koichi on a boat to try and disarm some bombs, I found to be very likable in personality and very memorable in the way they're portrayed. But the film also is able to harken back to many of the themes of the original Godzilla, talking about war and nuclear weapons, though not to the same extent as the original Godzilla. It does have many of those themes, but it also is able to come up with new themes of itself, and that is of coming together as a country, not just for your government, but for your neighbor, for your friends and your family. This is not just about a government trying to destroy Godzilla, and it has a lot of political messages. There's stuff like that in the film, but it's mostly sprinkled throughout. This is about a community trying to come together after suffering through so much death and carnage that they can't take it anymore, and Godzilla was the last straw for them. So seeing all these neighbors and friends, even people who we haven't even followed or met throughout the entire film, come together is just really empowering to see, and something that I wish to more Hollywood films do, really, because there's not this level of camaraderie between just individuals trying to achieve a common goal on a universal level. It is just something that really had me hooked on with the story and had me even more engaged with the characters. So the movie has a great story, it has great visual effects and scale and cinematography. The filmmaking is fantastic. Characters are really engaging and I care about them. Are there any problems with the film? Not that I could come up with right now, and that is a good sign of a good movie right there, is that you have to really dig deep about any problems. If I had to say, yeah, there are times where the visual effects do look a tiny bit janky, as I said, but that's really it. That is all I could come up with right now. I was engaged with the story, even when Godzilla wasn't on screen. I cared about all the characters and their personal struggles, and I want to see them be able to defeat Godzilla. The action is grand and intense, and it feels more like the original in that it's not about the fun of seeing Godzilla destroy things. It's about seeing these characters trying to push through and make it out of these situations alive. This feels at times like a legitimate horror film like the original, and in some ways I think this movie is better than the original, as I was more engaged with the characters here than I was with the original movie. They're more memorable here, they're more likable, they have more personality. I love the original and what it means. I still think it is a fantastic film. But just like with the Peter Jackson King Kong remake, this to me is that version of the 2005 King Kong remake. It's a remake that's able to take everything that worked about the original and is able to add a lot of new stuff here to make it feel like its own thing while respecting what the original started. It is a fantastic remake, a great celebration of 70 years of Godzilla, and if you are a Godzilla fan, I highly recommend this film. It is, in my opinion, better than the original Godzilla, but if you are still someone who goes into this thinking that's not going to be as good, I cannot see this movie at least getting close to that level for you. So I'm going to give Godzilla -1 an A+. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.